some of the issues at hand are quite mind-boggling.
Okay.
And one is inclined to believe that there was some governmental conspiracy behind it. Because if you look at the National Service case, of course, admittedly, it is not the first time that we've heard of ghost names in National Service. It's a long-standing phenomenon. But the amounts involved, for instance, when President Obama was president previously, he got wind of this and he asked the BNI to look into the matter. So they went into it and found out about 54 million or so was involved. And we all know the swift action he took to deal with the persons involved. Over 100 district directors were sacked and put before court. And the Director General at the time was also put before court. But initially, the Attorney General had thought that up to about 548 million Ghana cedis was involved in this particular National Service matter. Only for the Auditor General to go into the matter to audit and find that the amounts ran into about 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. And indeed, on Monday, when the President met the Chief Justice, the Auditor General, the Auditor General had cause to brief the President on some of the findings. They were mind-boggling. No, if the amount involved was, say, 5 million, 10 million, you could say that, oh, this is one or two people engaged in some illicit activity under the cover of darkness. But it is inconceivable that up to 2.2 billion Ghana cedis of government money will be siphoned outside of the system that is created to pay National Service persons without anybody higher up the chain getting wind of this. Because if you look at the process of payment, the claims have to go to the Finance Ministry for approval. And therefore, when you see a spike in the numbers overnight, over a considerable period of time, it certainly should trigger some concern. So you wonder what checks and mechanisms were in place to monitor some of these activities so that you do not spot up to 2.2 billion Ghana cedis of public funds that we hardly have, going into private pockets. And you wonder whether the people who have now been arrested and are being arraigned before court are the only people involved in this kind of scheme. It is something that we need to look into. If you look at the Hanan case, for instance, how do you take money belonging to the organization and pay directly into your account? It makes no sense. How is it that the systems that are put in place, the internal controls, the internal audit process and all of that miss this and allow this to continue over an extended period of time? So it shows that either the government itself was complicit and that this was a governmental conspiracy, or people were exceptionally incompetent as much to see what is happening. But you see, going forward, even as we deal with these cases, we need to draw lessons so that adequate checks are put in place. So what happens is that now, before you get any form of public funds released to pay for anything, we have what we call commencement certificates. It goes to the Finance Ministry, goes to the Finance Minister, who goes through it with a fine comb. And there are many instances where he has disallowed these payments because he is not satisfied about the narration that accompany the request for the payments. That is a way that you, because you see, most of the corruption that we have is procurement driven. In other words, people want to buy things, and it is through the process of buying things that things are either inflated so that something can be creamed off the top, or dubious means are used to ensure that the money lands into the pockets of people who themselves are involved in the transaction. The way to cure it is to have a system that oversees what is happening. And so that is happening. That is why you find that there are people who complain, that these days the Finance Minister is not releasing money, we are not buying this, we are not buying that. It is all because a system has been put in place to check it. When you do that, you limit. It is entirely possible that one or two instances may occur where people slip through, but you will minimize it to the barest minimum, and then you are able to deal with the instances that occur. It does appear that it was free for all under President Akufo-Addo, and that nobody bothered to check what was happening, because the extent of the corruption that we've discovered is mind-boggling. Moro, there's even another one. You know, when we came into power, we were given a bill of about 170 billion Ghana cedis as arrears that government of Ghana owed to various contractors and suppliers and other service providers. So you know, the minister announced that an audit was being carried out to ascertain the veracity of these claims. Look, the report that has emerged out of that is shocking. And I'm sure the Minister of Finance will have opportunity in the coming weeks to disclose the details of this audit. So you find that monies were just going down the drain in this country, and that people were putting public funds in their pockets for no work done. And yet we had a government that had a duty to protect this public purse President Akufo-Addo was very clear during his inauguration in 2017 that he will protect the public purse. But it appears that he did the exact opposite. He opened the public purse up for people to abuse.
Okay.
And that is how come we have some of these insights. So let it be clear that oral has come to stay. The president is committed to it. It will be carried out to the letter. And as the Attorney General himself said, no amount of interference from any quarter will stop what has to be done. The president is the boss, as pointed out. And in the meeting with the media, he said it, that he is the one who the buck stops with. It is not unusual in our setting here to have influential persons attempting to intercede on behalf of people who get into trouble. So that in itself is not surprising. I don't think that is something that will end today or tomorrow. But the most important thing is that those who have responsibility to act anyway, to the extent that they are convinced that there's a basis to take the actions that they are taking. So I think that the press briefings are not problematic.
Okay.
It is only part of the way that we open up government for scrutiny. It enhances accountability. It enhances transparency. And merely having the Attorney General briefing the public on what he's doing does not convict anybody. The test is in courts, and everybody who is so accused has all the opportunity in the world to state his or her side of the story and convince the judge that the Attorney General is wrong and that there's no basis to take any further action against them.
All right.
Yes.